My guest today is Howard Falco. He's a spiritual teacher, author, and speaker specializing in the power of the human mind as it relates to the creation of the experience of life. After his 35th birthday, in the middle of ordinary life, this married father of two with no background in spirituality, quantum physics, or religion went through a spontaneous and massive shift in consciousness that revealed the answers to more about life than he had ever imagined knowing. His book is called I Am, The Power of Discovering Who You Really Are. And this book reveals the answers to exactly how and why each of us have created our unique and individual experience of reality, offering the reader a practical and empowering process of taking complete control of the creative process of life from this moment onward. So Howard's website is www.howardfalco, Howard, Falco, Falco.com, or www.thebookiam.com. So let's start from the beginning, Howard. What's your background? Where did you grow up? And what did you do with the first few years of your adult life?
I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, and after that I wanted to move out west and go to school on the West Coast, so I went to school at Arizona State University, and I graduated and got into the finance business, and got married, had 2 children, and sort of went through the checklist of life of all the things you're supposed to put together to acquire happiness. And this led me to the state of mind that did not produce that ultimate sense of happiness, and the farther I went with life, the more I wondered why.
Had you embarked on any spiritual discipline before this massive experience that you have, which we'll come to in a moment?
None whatsoever.
Okay, you were brought up to be religious?
I was brought up under the religion of Judaism, but never really connected with the religion. As a matter of fact, when I was bar mitzvahed, I remember that they sent me to Hebrew school for 4 years to learn how to speak it, to say it, and to write it, but I was never connected spiritually. So I always kept an open mind on learning more and understanding more about the world.
But no rituals, no spiritual practices, no retreats, nothing of the sort?
None whatsoever.
And so what happened? What is this experience that you had?
I came to a place in my life where I thought that the last thing that I needed to attain happiness was money, millions of dollars. And one moment, I just stopped in the center of my hallway in my house, and I realized that I had everything in my life that money was never going to replace. And when that excuse left me, I became very, very scared, because the last answer I had on what the purpose of life was and happiness was gone. And in that moment, I asked a question with such yearning and such desire that I've never felt before. And I just raised my hands up and said, I want to know the answers to everlasting peace and happiness. I want to know what the purpose of life is and what we're all doing here. And then I let it go, and I went back into my life. And magically, a few weeks later, those answers started to make their way into my experience. It was randomly, nothing's random, but I was in a seminar for the finance world, and some things were being offered by the speaker about the nature of beliefs, and all of a sudden something triggered in me where I realized that the happiness that I was searching for on the outside was completely and 100% controllable on the inside. And when I realized this, I was shot into a state that I later realized was what's contextualized as bliss, that changed everything for me.
Was there a particular moment where this happened, like a sudden shift, a sudden enlightenment, Satori experience, or was it gradual?
It was instantaneous, and it was upon the realization of my own personal sense of perfection. Something that I had been searching for my whole life all of a sudden became realized that it already was. And when I realized that, it shot me into that state. And when I came off of it, I was stunned at what had occurred. I wanted to know, did anybody else experience this? Does anybody know about this?
Describe it a little bit.
The state itself? The realization that of my infinite nature, that there was no such thing as death or time, and that I was always in control. So that gave me this great sense of understanding, and most importantly, I understood my own perfection, which allowed me to open the floodgates of personal unconditional love. And when that occurred, it was a speechless moment. And what was really startling about it was not only that I was in control of the experience of my life, but I was astonished that I had asked a question with intensity, and my reality delivered me the answers. And so what I did was, when I came off the state, was I started asking a lot more questions in this very present state, which sent me into my second experience, which took 2 years to overcome.
Tell us about that.
Well, in the second state, I had been asking a lot of questions, some bigger questions about life. And what would happen was I'd ask a question, and then by a random comment or a movie, I would hear a line in a movie or a song. But because I was so present, I would see that information make its way into my reality. And at first it took about 2 weeks, then it was down to a week, then a day, and then I was sitting in my office 4 months after the first experience in 2002, and all of a sudden an answer just showed up. And it was beautiful. And then another one, and then another one, and they felt like they were dropping in like a raindrop that hits you on your, before you know it's raining, and you kind of question what was that, and then another one. And before I knew it, it was pouring. And I was trying to write all these answers down, and I couldn't write it down fast enough, so I just got up and left and got in my car. I didn't know where I was going to go, and I ended up parked at the public library in Arizona where I live, and got out and just followed my feet. I remember my heart beating in my throat, and I ended up in the spirituality religious section, philosophy section. I just grabbed books that were on the shelf that resonated, that looked like almost like they were glowing. They weren't, but they were sort of stood out, like Buddha and Confucius and Socrates and Christ, and took them to the back of the library and opened them up. And from the moment I put my finger down in the middle, I think it was the teachings of Freud, I saw it all. What was a foreign language to me, what I never could understand before, became crystal clear. And when I got to about the third book, I think it was actually maybe it was the New Testament, or there was a parable or something, and I saw it as clear as it could be. The back of my knees just gave out, and I went down in a state of it's beyond words to really speak about it, but it was very intense. And this took me 2 years to get my mind around. And Deepak, it wasn't that I needed to get my mind around the information, but my ego, my old self, was trying to yank me back by telling me, who do you think you are to experience this information? And I had realized that humility was the path to this. So I was so afraid of going out and speaking or talking or writing about this. And so the way I reconciled it was, I said, how do I reconcile this? And the information came back in like, Howard, this information is not for anybody special, it's for everybody. And the moment I heard that, the moment I realized that, I began to write, and I didn't stop until the book was done. So that's the nutshell version of the experience.
And this kind of ecstatic state, did it plateau? Did you come down after it, or has it stayed with you? How do you feel right now, for example?
I feel very much at peace. The emotional intensity of the bliss has come down, but the wisdom has stayed. That has not changed. The awareness, the clarity, and it's the whole intent of my book is to offer this process of self-awareness to anybody interested.
Tell us about the book. The book is called I Am, The Power of Discovering Who You Really Are. The author is Howard Falco. The publisher is Jeremy Tarcher. And you can check out the following websites: howardfalco.com and www.thebookIam.com. Tell us about the book a little bit.
The book is a radical process of self-awareness that takes you through what am I, how am I, why am I, are the first three sections, so that you understand how you have gotten to this point in your life from the very primal source of energy turned into matter, I turned into am, mind turned into matter, so that you can understand the nature of the perfection of everything that's occurred up until this very moment, and your perfection. Then the book turns to the creative process, which is who you can be is based on, and it's based on 5 things: your awareness of you, your will to ask questions, your desire for the answers, the power to step into a new state of being, your faith to take action, and ultimately your love of you. So the first 3 sections are about self-awareness, which gives you the power to take more conscious control of the creative process moving forward.
Do you then suggest that these questions are a kind of spiritual practice of contemplative meditation that offers revelation to anyone who who sits with these questions in their stillness?
I offer that the answers are here, and they've always been here for you. And it's not a question of if the answers exist. It's only a question of, are you ready to experience them, and the way that they're going to change the way you look at the world and yourself. So that's the only question. So it's a matter of desire. But when you are ready, you will be served. One of the most astonishing things I realized was that the whole purpose of reality is to serve you on your journey of creative infinite expression. And so, yes, when you are ready, but you will only be ready when fear subsides, love and faith arise, because that's when you'll be willing to step into that unknown of who you can be. And the ego loves to stay in the known. It wants to know it can survive, and the known is what says that I am, until it becomes intolerable to stay in that state of mind and that experience.
I'm speaking once again to Howard Falco. The book is I Am, The Power of Discovering Who You Really Are. The publisher is Jeremy Tarcher, and you can check out Howard Falco's website, howardfalco.com. You talk about revelation in a sense, but you also pay a lot of attention to the significance of emotions on the path to self-awareness. Talk about that.
Well, the emotions are great clues because they show us where we're in disharmony between what we believe to be true and what we're experiencing. Because when there's disharmony between your beliefs and your reality, it creates friction. And that friction generates either a positive or a negative energy. For example, if you buy a scratcher at the local gas station and you scratch it off and you win $10,000, you're going to be shot into a positive emotional state because your beliefs about who you are have now been over-validated to the point where that friction's creating positive energy that has to be purged when it becomes intolerable. And so you cry, you scream, you jump up and down, anything to remove that to get back to a state of balance, or what you believe is a normal state of balance, a tolerable state. Same thing on the negative side. If you suddenly break up with your loved one or someone suddenly passes, what you believe to be true is immediately, if it's immediately in conflict, will generate negative energy that also needs to be purged. So the emotional system is very important to us to shed that energy so that we can live clearly and in a tolerable state of mind. So they're clues to tell us where we are out of sync with our reality and our beliefs.
You talk in the book about addictions. What's your take on addictions?
Well,
why are they so difficult to
Well, I don't believe that they're
overcome?
difficult. They may or they may not be difficult. I think that's up to the will of the individual. But I believe that the addictions are simply the only method that that person knows to achieve a greater state of balance in their lives. It's the only method they found to relieve the negative energy that's causing their suffering. So they find an avenue that works, and then they're deathly afraid of letting it go because they know that
think
works.
addictive behavior is a search for spirit?
I think addictive behavior is a revelation of a mind that is not in peace with who they are. And I think the more that they learn self-love and self-acceptance, the less negative energy will be generated, the less there will be a negative state of mind, the less they will need to seek relief from it. So the core is always self-awareness as it relates to, if you want to say spiritually solving addiction. It's about understanding the perfection of their life. Because imperfection, the idea of imperfection is what causes the suffering that leads to addiction.
I'm speaking to Howard Falco. The book is I Am, The Power of Discovering Who You Really Are. The website, howardfalco.com. Also the book, iam.com. Remember that if you've missed part of the show, you can go to SiriusXM.com, and the show is repeated on Thursday, Friday, and all day Saturday. And it's also available on your iPhone apps. We're going all over the world right now, and it's really great to have you here, and in the future we'll be taking in your questions as well. Howard, how do you spend your time right now?
Well, right now I'm teaching and speaking and doing individual sessions with people that want to learn more about this. I'm linked up with local Unity Church in Phoenix, non-denominational church, to help promote some of these ideas. And so really I'm on the path of teaching and expressing this information to the world.
How's your work different from some of the popular things that are happening in society these days in the spiritual world, like the law of attraction material that's being kind of circulating there?
Well, I think what this does, it takes it maybe one layer deeper to the nature of I am, because we can't just we can at times think and believe and create a reality, but for many people where it's not happening, it's because they think that their truths are one thing when really the only truth is your reality and what's occurring. So that's always your gauge on what you believe about yourself to be true. And so you always know where you stand with what you believe by your actions. And when you're ready, you'll be ready to step into a new version of yourself. And also, I do have a different take on the ego, one that's not something to resist or control or destroy, but something only that needs to be understood, because in my understanding, it's your greatest ally. It is there to protect, serve, defend, and create the experience of what you believe to be true. It's the mechanism between I and am. Mm-hmm. So it takes what the mind believes to be true and then seeks to defend it, protect it, and create the experience of it.
The I am is undefined, isn't it? Or is it defined?
In the broader absolute sense, yes. Ultimately, we're all on the path to that understanding of our infinite nature. But the pace to that, what time really is the unfolding to that experience. So we are experiencing our infinite nature as we express our creativity. And the more that unfolds for us, the more we're at peace, because we're at one with what the universe is, which is a constant, infinite creative expression.
Wonderful. This has been a very enjoyable talk. I wish we could talk more about it. But please pick up this book. It's in bookstores. I'm sure it's in online bookstores. Publisher is Jeremy Torcher. Howard Falco is the author. The book is I Am, The Power of Discovering Who You Really Are. Check out his website, www.howardfalco.com, and also the other website is thebookIam.com. Howard, it's been great to have you. Good luck in your spiritual journey and helping others to also unfold their potential.
Thank you, Deepak.
Thank you. I'm Deepak Chopra. We'll be right back.